Welcome everyone to another Fudgetruck video. Today we're going to take a look at Gate of the Setting Sun in Mist of Pandaria Beta. Now I am on my Brewmaster tank in this dungeon, and I took along with me a person from the beta guild I'm in. I haven't really interacted too much with this guild, so I don't know too much about it. Basically it was just somebody asking me, hey, do you want to go on a heroic run? And because really it takes a long time for queues. Like, it took us 15 minutes just to find a healer, and I'm tanking, so there's no instant queue tank stuff. It just doesn't happen. So this is my first time here, and not to mention it's my first time on heroic, so you know, I do make a couple mistakes, of course, but nothing too difficult really. It's fairly straightforward. In the course of this video, there's a few good pulls that I wanna mention, because pulling with a Pandaren monk, or not just Pandaren, pulling with a monk in general feels a little bit different, because you don't have a massive amount of AoE to use. Like, your brew that you see me putting down there, it doesn't do damage, so it doesn't feel like you're getting aggro, but you really are. And you do have another attack that does AoE. Well, you have quite a few, but you have to, you know, build up your chi and all that fun stuff to use some of them. So it feels a little bit different. The way you have to initiate combat's a little different, but it's really straightforward. The pulls aren't too complicated. They do some interesting things, like you saw with those little bombs. I think you see it up here again. And you know, they do some interesting things with the. See, look at that, like that. They do some interesting things with how the NPCs react now, how the mobs, what they do, some of the little things. Like, if you take a look at pack 4, you'll see it again in this video. There was a look at the fire. See, that's cool. I mean, it's just extra stuff that. And that hunter was so mad about me not moving it out of the smoke. I'm sorry. I haven't done this before, jeez. Thought we're supposed to stand in that stuff. These guys hit fairly, I mean, they don't hit too hard, really. There's times when they like gang up on you and they hit you quite hard. I've noticed that a lot of the mobs and everything, they tend to hit more other people. They do more group damage, at least in this one. I don't know if it's like that all around, but for the most part, a lot more. The other group members are taking more damage normally than me, but as you can see, my health spiked down a little bit there. But I can heal myself for 140k, so you know, it's okay. No big deal. I've got a couple of those heals off in PvP before, just playing around with the Brewmaster, and it's pretty nasty. So we're gonna fight our first boss here. None of the bosses seem really hard. Nothing in this dungeon is hard, really. So, you know, the difficulty factor of how Cataclysm was is pretty much gone, which I kind of miss, because, you know, I picked up healing. I think it was well, it wasn't the first time healing, but I picked up healing pretty much as like my main spec for a good half of the expansion, I'd say, because it was hard. You know, if you healed dungeons fairly well, you were, you know, people needed you. People needed healers. People needed good healers. And the difficulty in this expansion so far is not even close to that. Like, this boss is, I mean, I don't know if they're going, I don't think they're going for difficulty as opposed to fun factor, but then again, you know, this guy's throwing bombs and stuff on the ground, and you dodge them. I mean, that's cool, I guess. But, you know, half the thing is when it's hard, it's a little more fun because it's a challenge. People like to be challenged. However, you can argue that challenge modes are for that exact reason. So there's a lot of ifs and buts about what I just said there. But as you can see, it's fairly easy, and it's not really too difficult. It's pretty much straightforward. Like this pull is pretty simple. You can like really CC these guys pretty well, and it took me a minute to realize that, oh, they're in the smoke screen. I should probably move them. That fire. It's literally, see, there's a trade-off though. There's a trade-off when you use those, because you can do an AoE rotation, squeeze in a shield, you know, your absorb shield in there, or squeeze in a one blackout kick to get your dodge up, but you're losing if you're trying to do a high amount of damage / threat with your main AoE rotation. I guess you could call it rotation. You're going to be more vulnerable because, one, you can't use blackout kick as often or at all at times because you just don't have the chi that you need, or you're going to be at a disadvantage because you may have blackout kick up but you don't have your shield up, or, you know, if you have blackout kick up and your shield, you're going to be starved for, you know, AoE attacks. So there's that little hunter attack. It reminds me of Diablo so much. I just think Diablo every time I see it. There's a lot of trash in this. I guess there's a lot of bosses too, but they just don't feel like bosses. In this dungeon, you'll spend most of your time fighting ads for the most part. There are quite a few bosses in here. I want to say like 5 or 6. I can't remember. There's a few of them. Let's just put it that way. And each of them have their own specific, you know, abilities, of course, like each boss does. But they don't seem very. There's nothing like dangerous about it. Like, I feel like when I'm going against these bosses that they're just kind of there with these. They're just like regular NPCs with extra abilities. I mean, I guess you could look at it like them being like that, but there's nothing. I feel like I could just stand there and take the entirety of somebody, like the boss's ability. I think the next one that comes up is the one that spawns a couple ads, and he puts fire across the room or something, and you know, there's nothing spectacular about that really. One thing I do like about these fights is they kind of almost feel like a mini raid boss kind of thing. They have this mini raid boss vibe to them. Their abilities, you know, it's kind of like back in the day, your bosses had like these abilities that were just like an extra, like this guy would put Sunder on you, and this guy would use this strike at a certain time. It wasn't really like a mechanic. It was kind of just an attack he used every blah 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 seconds. So like, take a look at this fight. This guy's a boss, and his voice, he sounds like Zorak. But you know, he's fairly straightforward, and I do stand in the fire, and it doesn't really hurt. I guess he puts poison on the ground too. So he does that. And also ads come down that the tanks is supposed to pick up, and I didn't realize it. until it was a little too late. I mean, well, no one died or anything like that, but I just like, oh, there's ads. I guess I should pick those up. And then while you fight the ads, he's continuing, you know, doing his thing. He pretty much only has two patterns. It's like up and down, left and right, and he moves like very slow, and you can obviously tell where he's going. But you know, I remember a while back that, you know, at the start of Cataclysm, it would be like an ability like that would kill you in like 2 or 3 hits. That's, you know, that's the difficulty change. I could probably just stand in there the whole time and take that fire. But as you can see, I don't do that. I think the healer does it. Watch him. He's like, oh, I'm just gonna stand here. So, you know, it's pretty cool. I like the fact that there's more to boss fights than just, you know, fight the boss here, pick up some ads. Kind of reminds me of you know, like almost like a deep breath kind of thing, but you know, it doesn't hurt as much. So, you know, that's really all there is to that guy. These cannons, I thought these cannons were kind of funny. I guess they shoot down the little bug dudes are flying in the air, and then they stop bombing the bridge so you can get across and fight the next boss. Look at that. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just clicking it. So wait for all my dudes. I noticed that they put a little lever here. I used to mess around with the I laugh every time I think about it. The elevator in Halls of Origination. You used to be able to, like, it'd go up, and then you used to be able to, like, right click it and bring it back down like halfway up. So, and then someone would be like, well, what the hell? Like, you'd be up there and someone would be trying to come up, and then you just click it. So they bring to first floor and it brings it back down. And then they'll go put it back up, and then halfway through you just click it and it'll go back down, and they'll never get up, and they'll get so pissed. I did that for such a long time. I laughed way too much over that. Actually, this is where the video cuts out. I got a crit error here, so I switched over. You probably heard it, the little ding. I switched over to the next part of the video because I logged out and came back in, and we gotta pull some trash before the next boss. There's 2 more bosses left, including this one. The trash here isn't really anything special. It's the same thing we fought pretty much every trash pack in here. I think there's only like maybe 3 to maybe 4 different types of mobs. There's a caster guy, there's a little ambusher dude, and then there's the big brute dudes. So there's really only a couple different types of bug guys here, mantid. So we're gonna fight through these guys, and then we're going to fight this boss. Now this boss, I would say, is he probably would end up being the hardest, because he does kind of have this soft enrage where he I kind of almost, when we were more than halfway through, I was like, oh crap, those things aren't going away. We're gonna be having some trouble here. And we were fine because the DPS sped up and we got him down. But the best place to actually keep this guy to start off with is after you grab the ads, pull him back to those stairs, because it took me a second to notice, but he look at him flailing around. I thought that was hilarious. Flails around like so he puts those down, and it took me a second to, I think he puts 2 down. I don't know, it kind of creeps. I don't know if it expands the longer like people are standing in it. I'm not sure. I don't really know for sure, but let's take a look here. Yeah, see, it kind of follows people. But see, I'm not sure on the specifics of it, but I definitely know that you want to start way at the back to give yourself as much room as possible for this. And then, you know, so you're not left with no room and standing in that, because that stuff actually does kind of hurt a little bit, and it's not very pretty. So this guy was being finicky and didn't want to die. And then after this, we go on to the last boss, which is a pretty interesting fight, actually. It's got an interesting mechanic to it. The boss himself is, I don't know, I wouldn't say invincible, but he's got a damage reduction of 99%. And he's got this buff thing on him called Hardened Carcass, where he takes a 99% damage reduction until it's like basically broken off of him. And there's a little, I don't know how much of it I got in this video, but pretty much there's these cannons, and with the cannons you use the cannons to shoot up on him. The tank can't do it and the healer can't do it. 2 DPS have to do it. So, you know, you have 1 DPS kind of, more or less what you want to do is you want to have your healer and your tank down there, and then you want to have 2 DPS jump up, and then 1 DPS that's fairly good at AoE needs to stay down and help with the ads, because there's actually ads. Because the tank, what's the tank gonna do? You don't actually tank this boss per se. So he just kind of does his own thing. And there's 2 phases to this fight. The first one is, you know, tank pick up the ads, DPS do your thing on the boss, and then the other DPS does their thing on the ads, you know, kill the ads so they don't overrun us, that kind of thing. And then the second phase is his armor breaks off and you proceed to DPS him like you normally would. Although what he does is he fixates on one person, and even for a tank he kind of hits rather hard. I mean, you could probably tank him fine if you really wanted to. Look at him. Some of the sound effects I don't think are in yet, but he's kind of cool. Look how big he is. I mean, I like fighting giant things. You know, it's not. When was the last time we fought something really big? I think. Let's see. It's been a long time. Like, you know, some of the raid bosses are really big, but this is like classic big, you know. So we start off the fight. There's little mantid up top shooting arrows down. It's really no big deal. You can move out of those easy. These guys, I don't know what they're doing, really. I really wasn't paying attention that much. This fight is actually fairly simple. So we have DPS up there, getting rid of his vulnerability, or getting rid of his armored shell. We got this guy. I don't even know what he does. I was really not paying attention. I was like, oh, there's only one guy, so I'll just tank him and DPS him like I normally do. He gets interrupted. He does cast something, so I'm guessing you want to take turns interrupting that. Or, I mean, you know, you're going to have 1 DPS down with you, tank and healer, or tank and DPS can take turns interrupting or whatever. And his armor's about to break here in a second. Alright, so his armor kind of like, he like busts out of it, and he goes all like ape shit, and he starts following somebody. Now, I think, I don't remember, but I think they added this in not too long ago, the little vortexes on the ground. I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not tanking him, so what do I do? because I can't taunt him. I can't establish aggro. Do I tank something else? And then I run into one of these. I'm like, oh, you know, does it give me some buff where I fly up and kill the dudes? But no, it doesn't. So I guess you're just kind of left to DPS. Here he fixated on me. I was just like, I wonder if I could tank it. Which I could. And that's pretty much it. It's fairly simple and straightforward. And there's your loot there. So that's pretty much it for this dungeon video. This was Gate of the Setting Sun. It's a fairly straightforward and pretty much easy dungeon, and especially at heroic. So I don't know what they're going to do when they change it around a little bit, or if they change it around a little bit. But please like, comment, subscribe. Check out the YouTube videos on my page and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, guys.